Hey guys, so I thought I would try something different and try to film outside. I almost never film outside. My computer's pretty much on its last leg, so I figured I might as well just bring it outside and expose it to the elements because it's going to die soon. It's probably about 6 years old, so it's on its way out anyway. It might be a little bit hard to hear me because I live in the city, and so obviously it's really loud. Sorry. I haven't done too many updates on the experience of immigration. I know I've done a few. In terms of how I got to Canada, the immigration process that I did go through. I explained the process for about 10 minutes in one video, so I'm not going to go over that again. But I have been getting the question a lot. Now I've been living in Canada for 4 years, but I didn't become a permanent resident of Canada and complete my immigration process until 2013, so that was about 3.5 years ago now. But I do get the question a lot now that I've been living here for a while, is Canada home? Is the city that I'm living in home to me now? And I wish I could answer that and say that, yes, I've made it into a new home and, kind of settled. Now that I've had a few years to settle and work here and meet new people, I'm still finding that I do have a hard time with adjusting. I still haven't completely accepted this as permanent. And really it isn't. When I moved here, I assumed that it would be forever. I moved for my relationship, so that was kind of the plan, was to stay in the city. But now circumstances have changed a bit, and so my partner and I are considering a move in the near future out of this city. Probably not out of Canada. I have some decisions to make with that in terms of, if I'm going to get my Canadian citizenship. Like, there's a lot of different decisions that I need to make in the near future here. Now I'm as settled as I think I'll ever be here. I have had, like I said, a hard time adjusting to the different culture. The work situation has been, I guess, the hardest to deal with. With my degree, I went through so many roadblocks and just so much chaos with trying to find degree equivalencies between the US and Canada. It was unreal. It's to the point now where I'm going to need to consider a career change sometime very soon, whether it's in the city or somewhere else in Canada, which is unfortunate because I did do 7 years of school, and when you're looking at all that debt and you realize that you did all that work and now it's not even really going to be something that you'll end up doing. It's a little frustrating. I'm not in a position where I can go back to school, even in Canada, so I'm going to have to try to use my degree for something relatable. Wow. So that is a little discouraging. That has been a huge factor in my inability, I guess, to settle here in Ontario. Hopefully, as I discover new things, like new job opportunities, new, career paths, that hopefully that will make it a little bit easier to settle somewhere. Making friends and meeting people in the first couple years was very difficult to do because before I got my legal approval for immigration, when I was just staying here on a visitor record, I wasn't able to work. I wasn't able to volunteer because I wasn't able to get police clearances yet in Canada because I obviously had never lived here. Most people make their friends in school and at work, and being that I was, 25 back then, my mid-20s, it's really difficult to make friends when you're not in the environment to do that. So the first couple of years were very lonely. I still say that the second year for immigration was the hardest. And I think a lot of people think that, I've talked to some people that have immigrated. We have a lot of immigrants living in this city, and they say that the second year is always the hardest because their first year is so just crazy chaotic. You're, trying to get all your affairs in order. You're trying to financially, pay for things, exporting your car or, doing your documentation and all that. You do what you got to do when you're in survival mode. And then the second year, you're legal to work, so you're looking for jobs, you're trying to settle, and then it all just kind of hits that you left home, and you start getting homesick, and you start thinking about all the things you left behind, and you start grieving that. And it took me a long time to really accept the fact that I was grieving, leaving behind my friends, my family, familiarity. I lived in Minnesota for 12 years, so it was home to me, and it still is. I haven't been back now to Minnesota in almost a year, so my visits now are becoming a little bit more in between. The last time I had gone home, I had also been away for about a year, so I've been going back about once a year now. So I do find that infrequent visits make it a little bit easier, because the more I go back, the more I find that I miss it, and the more that I think about the what ifs. Like, what if I had stayed? What if, what would my life look like if I had accepted that job? If I, was a counselor working back in Minnesota? You think about those things, especially when you move somewhere completely new, and it just turns your life upside down. Immigration itself, for anybody, and I don't care who you are, what country you're coming from, it's difficult. And that's like an understatement. It tests your patience, especially if you're coming through as like refugee status or under sponsorship. Like, it's a very trying experience. You will discover parts of yourself that you never knew existed. You will be very frustrated with the process. It's financially and emotionally just debilitating at times. I did go through a very, very rough patch in the last couple years. And it was a very dark place. And I think that, there's not a whole lot of awareness when it comes to immigrants and immigration and what we go through, especially me being American and moving to Canada. You would think, because the countries are so close together, that I wouldn't experience as much culture shock or as much difficulty with, my career, degree equivalency, not being accepted, like all that different stuff. But, and my partner and I, we did have a really unique situation with everything that happened after the move as well. So, it kind of put us in a different spot there too. So that was another reason for some of the hard times and some of those dark spots. I do think in some ways I have accepted this as at least a temporary home. I think everywhere I've lived, and I've lived a lot of places in my life and moved around a lot as a kid, I do think that my heart is a little bit of everywhere. There's pieces of me everywhere, and it just, you learn to appreciate different things about different places. I really do enjoy the culture here and the diversity. There are quite a few people that have immigrated, lots of immigrants, like I said, living here. There's a lot of things to do, especially in the summer. It's beautiful. It's an industrial city, but there are some very beautiful parks. There's lots of walking trails. It's a pretty active community in terms of, getting out, doing outdoor things. The winters are difficult. Winter's always been hard for me as it is, but there's not as much to do in the winter, so, unless you're, really putting yourself out there, it can get difficult. But I think I have settled in terms of as much as I'm going to here. I think that half of me will always be still stuck in Minnesota. Pretty much the majority of all my friends still live in Minnesota. We keep in contact, so I'm doing long-distance friendships. My family is there. Just missing that familiarity, missing that just sense of belonging, I think, is what I haven't really felt here. I'm starting to now, in the last couple years, meet new people, make friends, develop myself professionally as much as I can, try to be as active as I can in, building my life here, because at least for a year or two more, this is where we're going to be. And so, I think the answer to that question, I know lots of people ask me, why did you move to Ontario from the States? So why did you move to Ontario from Minnesota? Because you don't see a lot of Americans moving to Canada unless it's for, specifically for a job or for a spouse, like in my case. You do see a lot of Canadians going to the States just because of the economy. The economy is, in general, better in the States than it is here. I get that question more often than not, but I have been getting the question a lot of, how much I've settled, if I see this as home. I see it as, like anywhere else, that it does hold a place in my heart, and I'm, starting to develop a new sense of home, but I think home really, like, it sounds really cliche, but home really is where the heart is. I think that's just where my heart is always going to keep going back to regardless. And hopefully one day in the near future, my partner and I can find a place that we both feel at home and kind of build our lives. And I don't know that it will be in the States. I used to be able to only see myself as living in the States, and now I'm kind of open-minded. I think wherever life leads us, wherever we can both be happy in our careers and just quality of life, I think is what matters. At this point, that's where I'm at, and I have to be content with that, and I have to learn to accept that, this is where I am right now, and this isn't a final destination. This is just part of the journey. So I'm trusting in that process and putting my faith in what I need to move forward and build that sense of home. Anyway, I hope you are all doing well and enjoying the rest of your summer and the remaining weeks of summer that we have left here, and hopefully I'll be doing some more updates sometime in the near future.